Rolling. Well, thanks for joining us today. Super excited to have you here. And I will say, like, from the time that you walked in, it's been really cool to see you and Al interacting together. It's kind of like, old friends seeing each other. And my first question for you was really just if you could tell us a little bit more about how you guys met, how you guys know each other, and how he convinced you to come play a song for us and join us for this podcast.
Well, the first time that I got to know Al was, once I had reached the age of 21, and he's cousins with one of my best friends I grew up with, Nathan Colombo. And, well, yeah, when we were in college, after we were 21, we'd be in here at Gene's having a good time. This is our preferred spot.
Always 21. So.
Yeah, because that's always the case, right?
Yeah. We go, when was that? Like 2010? Is that when?
Let's see. I would have been 2013.
2013.
Yeah, when I came back. Yeah, it had been my junior year of college.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, and you used to – I've been meaning to ask you about this. You used to text me or call me up and say, hey, anybody playing Thursday night, can I come over and play? Why don't I get those calls anymore? Have you been busy or something? I mean,
yeah, I have been busy. I apologize. But the last time I was here, it was great, wasn't it?
Oh, it was, absolutely.
It was good.
And today's great too. I really appreciate you taking the time from your family and all. I mean, I know you said you're going to be in town for a while, but I really appreciate you coming out. And
this is cool.
After church and lunch with the kids and all that. So
is this the second podcast?
This is the third one.
The third one? Hell yeah. So we're right here at the ground floor. This is cool.
That's right.
Yep.
But no, I used to call you for those gigs on Thursdays or Wednesdays or, the occasional Friday, and it meant the world. You give me 3 hours to come in here, and your wife would pass around the tip bucket, and I could make a couple $100, and that what made a huge difference in my life in those years. And that was
we enjoyed it.
Huge.
I mean, my wife was saying last night, she goes, man, his voice is so good, because we were at the baseball dinner last night. She goes, his voice is so good. And she goes, I just, I don't ever remember hearing it. I said, well, I'm sure, all the practice and stuff you had, everything's getting better and better and better. But I mean, we thought you were great back then.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and it takes all those reps to figure out what your natural voice is. And I got started so late. It took me a lot of my 20s was just trying to figure it out and figure out how to sing, the way that I do naturally, and get my influences out of the way. And then I'm still working on the guitar. I'm not a great guitar player because I picked it up so late. But
well, it sounds good to me. I'm not a guitar player. But
the gigs at Gene's were a big part of that. Was getting those reps in, playing in front of people, and when each of those nights that I would play here, whether it was one person or 5 people, there would be people that would enjoy it each one of those nights, and then they'd follow along. And then Seneca came out, and then that's how I was able to build a base. And that's how you got to do it if you're gonna pave your own way and go about it outside of the normal avenues of trying to get picked up by a label early on, and have them kind of help you along that path, which is another way to do it. That's the way you got to do it. If you're going to do it from the outside, you got to do it, one bar gig at a time, developing yourself. Then you got to put that first album or EP or project out and build a base and build a following. And that's what's allowed me to. And the reason why I haven't called or texted you very often to play, even though I still come in here for a beer anytime I get a chance, is just because I'm playing all around the country and trying to reach all the different parts of the country each year. And I have over a dozen people that are on the payroll, like dependent upon this thing growing, and that's how they feed their families. So
it's hard to keep all those people on the payroll when you're passing the pitcher around and getting a couple $100.
That's right.
Got to have at least a card swipe at that point. Yeah.
What's that?
Got to have at least a card swipe at that point.
Yeah. Exactly. So
I think for a lot of folks that are tuning in maybe to this podcast might have recently saw your Joe Rogan podcast, and I'll admit on my way here I was listening to it again just to kind of hear a little bit of that. And one of the things that I loved is that you're rocking your jeans hat at the podcast. And I will say, for those who are listening today, the roles have been switched, and Al's repping his jeans hat But my question is really like, I get this a lot where people, are moving to Morgantown through my job, or I'm kind of introducing them to West Virginia and Morgantown. And I always like talk about this place, Gene's, and, sometimes it's hard to put words to it when you're trying to describe what this place is to somebody. So for you, like, how would you describe Gene's to somebody who you just met, who you're, trying to paint that picture for them?
I always say to people, Gene's is my hometown bar.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? This is the, the community of Morgantown. There's a number of churches. There's a number of like different restaurants, coffee shops, charities, gyms, and then there's like these kind of hangout places.
Yeah.
And Gene's is a essential part of that. Is like the hangout part of the whole community here in Morgantown. This is where folks can come and catch up. Like my buddies and I over Christmas, we get to see each other at the same time, maybe once a year if we're lucky.
Right.
This is where we come on that night, to catch up and have beers. So that's what Gene's means to me. And
the past 2 years, I've just become a new father, and celebrating your birthday, I think when you're younger and single is, going playing paintball up in Pittsburgh or doing something crazy, throwing a party. But for me, like my low hanging fruit is like, hey, I'll be at Gene's, on my birthday, come have a beer with me and come hang out. So
I totally get that.
Yeah.
And I always joke that, grown men shouldn't make too big of a deal of their birthdays. I don't know why, but I just feel that way.
Yeah, so note that.
Especially
no
when
paintball.
I got one coming in a couple of days, and I'm not making a big deal about it. So
when's your birthday?
When?
Yeah, what day?
The 30th, Tuesday.
Okay, February 4th. So
nice.
Yeah. You want to have a birthday at Gene's?
Yeah, let's do that. Come on over.
Yeah, there's sometimes like there'll be like a guy that'll reach out and he's like, "Hey man, it's my birthday this weekend. Can you play this song?" And I'm like, "Get out of here with that shit! Like, don't tell me about that." But for some reason, if it's like a girl or something, she's like, "It's my birthday. Can you play Temporary Town?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got you. I'll play that." But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of Joe Rogan on there, I mean, that whole thing was pretty cool. I mean, just watching that, especially when I saw the hat on there, But and by the way,
did you pay for that advertising?
Somehow I'm going to pay for this. But
Chili
I think
dogs.
I paid for it years ago when I used to pass that picture around and nobody put any money in, but I always made sure there was money in there. So. But you're great for hat sales, I mean to tell you.
I bet.
Yeah, you outsold Tyler Childers in the first day.
Good. Yeah, Joe reached out in October, about coming on the show and everything. And after he reached out, I was like, I was just thinking, I was like, what should I wear? You know what I mean? I was like, I think I'm gonna wear a jeans hat for sure, and then figured, the rest out the day of. But yeah, I kind of decided early on that I was gonna wear that hat.
Well, I appreciate it. So
yeah, man.
I'm gonna send him a hat. He'll probably never wear it, but
yeah, he probably would.
Yeah,
probably would.
So.
Man.
Well, I think you making that decision to wear that jeans hat, and just in general the way that you've carried yourself as you've found success in your career has kind of spoken to your appreciation and love for where you came from. And I know for me, someone who grew up in West Virginia, it's always really encouraging to see that, because I think a lot of times folks who end up making it, they'll have a decision point, right? Do they admit or hold on to their roots, or do they decide to kind of shift things up for marketing purposes, or to have more mass appeal? But can you tell me a little bit more about what that means for you to like be from West Virginia, to be from Morgantown, and to kind of carry that on with you in your career?
Yeah, this is where I'm comfortable. Most everybody here in town I either grew up with, or they watched me grow up.
Yeah.
And so I can come here and go about my day-to-day life nice and normal. Go to the store, drop the kids off at daycare, go to church, come to the bar, go to a restaurant, go to the gym, and everything's pretty normal. It's nice for me because there's not like music industry here.
Yeah.
So it's everybody, if they want to say hi, they say hi, but like there's not that thing where they're asking you for something. So to me, this is honestly the most comfortable place in the world for me. I like coming home here. And it may have been better for business to have moved to Nashville, but it also saves me from having to go to a lot of events and things all the time. Because if I lived there in town, I think I'd be, there's
day in and
something
day out
every night, and it's real easy for me to say, no, I can't.
Yeah.
Because I'm 9 hours away.
Yeah,
So, you know what
yeah.
I mean? So, but West Virginia is my home. I love it here. And I think it informs my music too. So I don't think I would be the artist that I am or sound the way that I do, for better or worse, if this wasn't where I was from and where I was rooted.
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for being in a bubble, which I kind of am,
Right.
coming back home here to where my perspective on the world, or the way that maybe I write something down and describe it, is just a little different than what other people how other people may articulate it
Right.
in other parts of the country.
Right.
And it is nice too, because since I'm not writing with other people every day in that kind of bubble, or in the music industry, maybe sometimes I get lucky and I can say something a little bit in a different way that hasn't been said that way before, which sometimes you see a lot of that, where it's a bunch of the same things kind of being said the same way,
Right.
just slightly different variations of words.
Yeah.
And I think it allows me to at least be unique by just staying up here kind of where I'm from, in my bubble, and kind of living life the way that I choose.
Yeah. No, I think it's important for West Virginia, for Appalachia, to tell our own story. And like you were saying, a lot of times, you hear in a certain genre or a certain industry, like kind of a similar tone or a similar kind of verbiage. And, West Virginia for the longest time has had like a kind of monotone narrative that's been out there. And so part of the stuff that we're trying to do through this podcast, and some of the stuff that you're trying to do, it sounds like, is really like give a voice to your story, but through your story, the story of West Virginia as well. And so I always get really excited when I find out artists from Appalachia are making success, and people from West Virginia are out there telling our story, because it's an important one, right? It's an important one for the U.S. and it's an important one for us. So.
Yeah, I think a big part of the potential future for West Virginia, if it were to go like on the upside or the bright side, what it could be is if somehow the young people now and in the future, if they would become inspired as they grow up here, to grow up with a belief that whatever they want to do, they can actually do it here.
Yeah.
They don't have to, go to university wherever they can.
Yeah.
And then get to a city as soon as possible to try to make their career goals happen.
Yeah.
I guess that's the worst case scenario for West Virginia, and that's what's been happening a lot in the last few decades. Is most of the kids I grew up with, we went to school here, we played sports here, we grew up, we go to WVU or whatever other in-state school maybe, we get our education, and then a huge percentage of us we're out of here.
I'm out. Like
to this city, that city, or wherever, and. It's a free country, and people can do that, and that's great. But that also, that does lead to, the problems that we face as a state with the declining population, the demographic of our population, the age demographic, becoming, vast. I think the vast majority of West Virginians are 50 plus. Am I correct on that? I'm sure if we look that up, that's probably the truth.
No, it's for sure. Yeah.
So I think going forward, if and there's a ton of pieces to this puzzle, and this is only one little piece of it. But if as a state, those of us that are still out here owning businesses and starting careers and things like that, if we're able to do it within the borders of this state or based out of this state, succeed, project that, vocalize it, let it be known. Let our kids and their friends know about that. Maybe as these kids grow up, it can have the same effect on me that Homer Hickam did. Homer Hickam had that effect on me when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I saw what he did, being from Coalwood, what he was able to do as an author and all that, and that inspired me to have. That's part of the reason why I feel so strongly about this.
Yeah.
So, and one person isn't going to do that, but if as a whole state, a whole generation of people kind of take that mentality to it, in the future that might have an effect where we get that population to start, getting in the green and rising, because to me, there's no reason why we shouldn't be growing in population.
Yeah.
You know, I think we're the most beautiful state on the East Coast. The tourism's amazing.
For sure.
And we have a culture which is unique now, because so much of the U.S. has become, it's so easy to move from place to place. You know, a lot of the different regions of the country have lost that unique identity that they might have had, you know, 30 plus years ago.
Right.
West Virginia still has that because there's still a certain amount of isolation here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we could do that going forward, you know, that might help with some of the issues that we face as a state with the declining population and all.
I couldn't say it better. I hope that if there are any young people from West Virginia that are listening, they kind of get that message, because it's something that, you know, from my perspective and my position, I hope that we can start to make a change in that direction.
Yeah.
You know, it is the key in my mind.
In the same way with when I found out about Rogan in October, I was like, I'm going to wear that jeans hat.
Yeah.
I've thought about it, like if I were ever to be, you know, lucky enough to win a Grammy, which that's a goal. I do want to win one.
Oh, you will.
Because it's not so much about the trophy or anything like that, but I want that to be something that if I were to ever be in the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame or something down in Charleston someday, I want that in there when I'm dead. But if I get the opportunity to do that and speak after I get one, you know, that's kind of what I would pass along, you know, after thanking my family and friends and all, is that to all the young people in West Virginia and the kids, you know, y'all can make whatever you want to happen in life happen from here if you choose to. You don't have to leave to make it happen.
Right.
And, you know, that's not just the arts. You can do that in the business world too. Look what Mike Pushkar did within the borders of our state.
Yeah, Brad Smith.
So, you know, you can make it happen here. It's just a decision that you have to make, and it might be a longer road, but the payoff down the line might be more rewarding to do that, you know.
Snaps, man. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Well, I just really appreciate the fact that, you know, you remember where you came from.
Yeah.
You know, you're always mentioning that. You're always, you know, making sure people know that you're from West Virginia and you're proud of it and that stuff. And that's really great, because, you know, that doesn't happen these days anymore, you know. I mean, even Jerry West used to hang out here when he was in school.
Yeah.
But if you talk to him, he wasn't from West Virginia.
Right.
You know, he's from Los Angeles.
Right.
What it is now, you know. So, but, you know.
Well, we'll get you a statue in front of the Coliseum, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always think it's funny. Jennifer Gardner, you know, I look to her a lot as somebody from West Virginia who's kind of taken not just pride in her state, but has also done a lot in the state to kind of help fill.
Yeah, she did a lot with the flooding there in, was that 2016 down in Greenbrier County and Clendenin and all that. Her and Brad Paisley, they did a lot for that.
Yeah, it's powerful. I know she talks sometimes about when she goes back home, like no one in West Virginia is impressed with her, right? Like, like she rolls into her jeans, right? Or, you know, walking around and they're just like, oh, hey, like, you know, like, who are you? And I'm curious for you coming back to Morgantown, living here, you know, you have your family here and everything. Like, what's it like for you walking around? Like, do you catch yourself, you know, in the limelight, or is it a little bit more low key for you here?
I was, super low key. Yeah. You know, again, like I was saying, like I go about my day to day, very normal. And, you know, at the most just say hi and keep moving. It's great. And that's why I love it, you know?
Yeah. What's life like look like for you in West Virginia? Like, I have here that you're a homesteader and you got yourself a little bit of land out there. So tell us a little bit about that, about what life looks like.
We have a nice little property outside of town, and we aspire to make it as nice as possible and get a little greenhouse going, get a big garden going. Yeah. You know, we have chickens and stuff, but going to put a new coop in and like a big old covered run for them. And I just like I like piddling outside when I'm home. It's fun for me to just do little things on the day to day. So I just got a new tractor and having a lot of fun with that.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, my day to day is often like trying to talk to people who are interested in moving to West Virginia and kind of convince them that this is a good spot for them. And I think a lot of folks who are considering that decision, making their way to West Virginia, are thinking about quality of life and how they can find some of those things that you found, you know, in West Virginia. And recently, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there was some data that was published that was saying that West Virginia and a few other states in the U.S. have actually seen an influx of movers into the state compared to people moving out. And so I thought that was encouraging, and some of the stuff that I'm trying to do with work, and I'm sure for you thinking about the future of West Virginia too, hearing that, some of these things might be actually changing, right? The perception of the state might be changing, and folks might, see a future here in West Virginia. So.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, that's awesome to hear. And if we can just try to make the environment as friendly as possible for anybody that thinks they might, have a business idea or something like that, that's all positive stuff. If you can just try to incentivize folks to come here and make it happen.
Yeah.
Because, coming here, like if you live in Chicago and you make $200,000, and let's say you live up on the north side or something like that, you make $200,000 a year, but you don't work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You work 7 to 8 or 7 to 7.
Yeah.
And that $200,000 might give you the lifestyle that $60,000 gives you here. And maybe you come down here and maybe you cut that in half and you're only making $100,000, but you're living twice the quality of life, and you're working 4 hours less on the day to day, and actually spending time with your family. Like that to me, like, if I were like traveling around the country trying to sell the state, I was like, that's how it is here. Like you don't, even though the salary, you're like, oh, that's a lot less than what I make here. It takes a lot less to live here than what it takes to live in a lot of these other parts of the country.
Yeah.
You can be king of the hill for a quarter of what it costs to just be getting by in certain cities in this country.
Yeah, that's so true.
So,
So true. Well, I'm going to do a little bit of a pivot here and ask you about the song that you played for us a little bit ago, and really what it was like to hop in and pick up a guitar and play another song in jeans again. What did that feel like for you?
Yeah, it just felt like same old scene to me. What I mean? I'd done that a number of times, so it was no big deal at all. The guitar sounded great.
Those who didn't see it, what it was it was us and our film crew and some of our folks here with this podcast, and then 2 or 3, 4 other folks at the bar just listening in, had no idea what was going on, right? They come in and see a bunch of cameras and stuff. But it was great, man. It was good to hear you play. What is it like playing something like that, and then playing something like Red Rocks or some of these big venues around the U.S.?
It's I always say this when people ask, like, does it feel any different now? When we were at the club level, once the clubs are full, it feels the same.
Yeah.
Once the room's full, the venue size really doesn't change the way me and the guys feel about the show or the way we approach it. Once that room was filled, it's kind of like, it's hard to explain. And a lot of times you can only really see a certain distance anyways because of the lights. Yeah. So, the most nervous I've been in recent years was my first time at the Opry. Right. Just because I didn't want to mess that up the first time. Yeah. But other than that, it kind of all feels the same. Whether it's 9,500 people at Red Rocks or 15,000 people in Council Bluffs, 30,000 in Austin. Yeah. Or
or 100 here.
I was gonna say
100
how much
here
you can fit.
100 here in jeans. Like once the room is full, it kind of feels the same then after that. Right. And if you think about it while you're doing it, you're liable to mess up. You know what I mean? Like I've caught myself do a couple times. We were doing Summerfest up in Milwaukee last year, and that was 30,000 or 26,000 people there that day, and I thought about it for a sec, and then I fumbled a word, and I was like, I got to get that out of my head. So you try not to even think about that. Just it'll throw you out of the song or out of your own head.
Well, obviously, my the end of my music career didn't end me up on a podcast like you, but when I was an undergrad, I competed in Mountaineer Idol at WVU, which is like the singing competition.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah. And I won. I don't know how. I think it's because I had an awesome band who would play live for me. And, they were fantastic. They probably carried me to the end. But my prize was to sing the national anthem at a WVU game in the Coliseum. And I remember walking up, and it's kind of so fast, right? Like everything just started moving, and I got to the court, and whoever was there with the headphones are like, okay, you're out, and just go stand on the thing and sing. And I remember standing out there, and the lights were on you, and so it felt like the entire place was empty, but you knew it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of feel that like space and everybody so far. And I made it through the song somehow. You know, national anthem's not easy to sing too. But at the end, my aunt was in the crowd, and she she called me up afterwards. She was like, "Hey, were you nervous? I could see your legs shaking the entire time."
Dude,
you had no idea, man. I was like 2 seconds away from passing out.
that stuff, those types of situations will make you, nervous.
Yeah.
Because a show's different. Like a show is like the people are there to see you.
Yeah.
It's a different thing. Like you just go out there and do it, and if you mess up or whatever, you keep moving, and it kind of even makes it better.
Yeah.
But like radio, like TV,
Right.
a national anthem or something like that. That stuff's different, and that makes me nervous too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Have they asked you to do that here yet?
No, not yet.
No?
Not yet. No.
Oh, we'll get you in. Yeah, yeah.
It might be coming. You never know.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, rendition of Country Roads at
Yeah.
a football game.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
And-
John Denver came out to, or not John Denver, Zach Denver, his son. Sorry, Zach Denver came out to Red Rocks last year to see us, and
Nice.
they still have to manage, his discography
Right.
and things because John's passing was unexpected and all. So they for me I covered the song, and then Q Country Roads also that has that borrows from that song. So
Right.
there had to be a collaboration and permission with that song with them. So they've been very supportive
Nice.
of all that. And I was talking to Zach. I was like, man, we gotta get you back to Morgantown like before a game. Like, folks would love that. He's like, yeah, man, I think it's been since the 90s since he was here.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool, man. I was very starstruck.
Yeah.
Like meeting him. There's
That's-
something about like just meeting the family of John Denver.
Yeah,
It's just
that's
like
legendary.
I was very pumped to meet him.
That's
He
cool.
probably was like, who is this guy talking my ear off? But I wasn't about to try to play it cool
Yeah.
because I didn't know if I'd ever see him again. So
Right. Well, since we're on the topic, WV football, what'd you think about the season this year?
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun to watch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was a good one, man.
I think it was your pep talk that turned them around.
I think so.
I think the coaches and the players, like, that was just a fun group. You could tell that they came together and like just had a good team chemistry.
Yeah.
And the coaches did an amazing job too. I mean, the schemes, the play calls, the setups that they would have. That was just a fun year, man.
Yeah.
And outside of the Oklahoma game, man, that team was just a few plays away. They could have been 10-2 or take that.
A Hail Mary away from
Hail Mary,
Yeah,
man.
Hail Mary away from 10-2, and if the punt return thing with Oklahoma State, like, hell, that might have been 11 wins there if that beginning of the fourth quarter wouldn't have started out that way. So, yeah, it was a fun season, man. But yeah, I mean talking to him that day, there's a lot of hard cuts in that video because
Okay,
I
yeah.
didn't know until when I was there at practice. Neil asked if I would speak to him. I was like, oh, like, what do I say? So while I was talking to him, I was trying to think of the next thing to say. So I was using the F-bomb as like a spacer.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I look back at that, I was like, oh, that's not very tasteful. But
Yeah.
yeah, so if they ever post the unedited version, it wouldn't come off nearly as well as what the nice hard cut version where they cut all that
We'll post
out.
that on the Jeans podcast.
Yeah, full uncut,
Yeah.
exclusive. Yeah. Well, you talked a little bit earlier about when you were first starting out, how appreciative you were of Val, and I'm sure there were other folks in the local community that kind of helped support you in your efforts. But I heard a little bit of your story about how you went from the stage at Jeans to some of these bigger stages, and I'm curious, like, what was that journey like for you as you went from learning how to play music pretty much in undergrad, right, to where you're at now? What was that like?
It's just little steps at a time, just chipping away at it every day. Because I started off, my voice sounded like people that I wanted to be like.
Yeah.
So that took years to work out. And then writing, I was terrible when I started writing. And so I started writing in 2014. And, all those those first songs that I was writing were really bad, but it has to be that way in order to start getting to the good stuff. You got to work at it. So it took years of driving around the country in my old Toyota Highlander.
Nice.
And usually would have the dogs with me, and I had a sleeping mat in the back, and my little sound system, my guitars that I'd keep travel around with, and just go from gig to gig,
Right.
trying to take steps forward, because I knew, like, things weren't going to happen until the time was right.
Right.
So it took me a lot of years to build up to the point of being able to even write well enough to make that first album, to make Seneca.
Yeah.
Because if I would have tried to do that 3 years earlier, 2 years earlier, it wouldn't have been ready. The songs would have been green. They would have been bad.
Right.
I would not have sounded like myself, which for better or worse, 2017 and 2018 is when I found my natural voice. So like when I open my mouth, it sounds like me. Now some folks say there's too much vibrato or whatever, but that's just the way I sound.
Yeah.
And it's unique, and you got to have that to make it in music. You can't be mimicking other people, because there's already that person.
Yeah.
So why would people want to hear somebody trying to copy them?
Yeah.
So it just took a lot of years of going one night at a time and playing 3 and 4 hour shows with the tip jar and maybe $50 in a burrito or a sandwich or whatever.
Yeah.
And just piecing it all together and trying to figure it out. And then, once that first album came out, that's when it started looking professional.
Nice.
It worked out where it found an audience. So I could go anywhere in the country and somebody would buy tickets to come see me.
Right.
So then once you get to that point, then, managers and booking agents see potential there. So I was able to get, booking and management after Seneca came out, and then that changes the whole game.
Yeah.
Because then you're able to I'm not a good business person, so I wasn't able to book myself well. I wasn't able to negotiate well for myself. I didn't have any contacts.
Yeah.
I didn't know, wasn't able to open for anybody because I didn't know anybody.
Right.
But once I got that help, then, I could start playing in venues, at ticketed shows, and opening for people and being exposed to their audiences and starting to build the thing.
Yeah.
And then once you reach that point, then you just got to keep going and keep grinding. Keep working on your craft for the next project while building that following out on the road, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
So, it's a long road, because it was, it's 6 years up to that first album.
Yeah.
And, a lot of points in time in there where it would be real easy to quit. Lots of other things for a living look a lot, make a lot more sense. Than that does when you're in the middle of it. But if you can make it through to the other side, then there's that all that growth on the other end once you can get that base built.
Yeah. Did you ever get close to giving up?
Yeah. One time specifically, I was on my way down to Bluefield to play this place called the Rail Yard in August of 2017, and my old band, Union Sound Treaty, was kind of falling apart. We just had a member leave, and I kind of put 2 years into that, and just felt like I was just getting knocked down to level one. And I could teach history, any day and be happy.
Yeah.
So I've always known that. Like, I would enjoy that.
Right.
I could be an engineer and enjoy my work too. So, for better or worse, like, I always knew, like, if I didn't do this, like, I could be happy doing something else. Which some folks aren't like that, which kind of makes it a little bit more simple. Because then they got no other choice than to keep playing music, because they know they'd be miserable doing everything else.
Stakes, yeah.
So I was driving the car on my way down to Bluefield, and I was thinking about all this, and almost like broke down the car, and I decided, and it, if you make an important decision in your life, and when you become settled on it, how it just becomes peace.
Right.
There's not that like twisty turning feeling in your gut. Once you make the decision. And you know what you're going to do, it kind of just washes over you, and you really stop stressing about it.
Right.
I had done that day in the car about quitting. I was like, I'm done.
Wow.
I think I'm going to not book anything more and just do whatever's left on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to enroll in classes. My wife and I were at Athens, Ohio at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I'll enroll in some classes at OU and start heading down that path.
Yeah.
So I went to play the gig there at the Rail Yard. It was a 3-hour show. You know, this whole evening, like it's washed over me. Like I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna follow through with this stuff, and here in a few months, you know, this is it. I'm done with this. After I finished that gig, I'm sitting at the bar, and I got a notification on my phone that We Hate Pop Country, which is just like a social media like country thing,
Yeah.
but it had like over 1 million followers.
Yeah.
Had shared my Coal Country video.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, wow, you know, and, you know, within, you know, a number of hours, like hundreds of people had followed me.
Wow.
Tons of people had viewed the video. And then like at the next week's gigs,
Yeah.
there are people that were coming out to see me because of that.
Yeah.
And that was just enough
Yeah.
for me to be like, well, maybe I'll give it a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
Then I demoed Seneca that December. So that was August, and then in December, you know, I demoed Seneca in January, recorded it January 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, that one evening, that happening, gave me just enough to be like, maybe I won't quit yet.
Yeah.
And then, you know, made Seneca a few months later.
Man.
And, you know, all of 2018 was just trying to get all the pieces together to try to do the most proper and professional release that I could,
Yeah.
getting PR and things like that, rolling it out the best way that I could.
Right.
And then, February 2019, it changed my life.
Dang.
But if that wouldn't happen that night at the Rail Yard, I probably would have quit. And,
Wow.
you know, by now I'd be, you know, teaching somewhere.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it came real close. Yeah.
It's kind of a story of how important timing is, and you talk about like manufactured luck and how much grinding it takes to get to that next step, but then also there's a little bit of like genuine luck, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
what if that text message would have came next week, right? Like after that decision had time
Yeah.
to settle, and so it's kind of really cool to hear how everything in that story kind of lined up to bring you to here. And you know, I'm always thinking about like, you talked about at some point like West Virginia's music scene, and as somebody who like dipped my foot in and tried to pursue that for a little bit, it's always been kind of I wouldn't say like disheartening, but I always wish more, right? I wish more for West Virginia artists. I wish more for West Virginia musicians. And I think that there is true talent here, right? And it's just one of those situations where somebody didn't get that text message, right? Someone didn't have that moment, didn't have that that one little push. But when you look at West Virginia's music scene and artists here, are there any artists that you kind of like you feel drawn to, or you kind of wish had, you know, continue to move towards that direction of finding success and pursuing that?
Yeah, there's a ton of talent in the state. West Virginia doesn't have the best music scene.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a combination of things. Even though Morgantown is the university town, Morgantown has kind of had a rough decade,
Mm-hmm.
I'd say, with enrollment going down,
Yeah.
Milan leaving town. So, and then the pandemic. So we've had some turnover with the music venues and things
Mhm.
like that. The music scene that changed my life and that I would love to see West Virginia somehow get someday
Mhm.
would be Lexington.
Okay.
Lexington, Kentucky has an incredible music scene.
Okay.
And it's down there, the artists are super, they're all friends, very
Mhm.
supportive of each other. They, you know, when one makes it, they have the other ones open for them, and it's a much more positive music scene than West Virginia's. When I was coming up, you know, a decade ago, 5 to 10 years ago, it was very much a famine mentality.
Yeah.
Which hopefully that's getting worked out. You know, I've been gone basically hundreds of days a year
Right.
for the last few years, so I don't really know what the local scene's like anymore. But I do know that it's fractured.
Yeah.
It's not as together as what Kentucky's has become. And I'm hoping, like, because you can't force this. All you can do is just kind of be like one little positive part of it as an individual.
Yeah.
So like when I played my hometown shows, I made it a point to have 4 West Virginia openers, you know, up and coming acts to open those Met shows, to play in front of a full theater. Nobody from here in the state did that for me when I was coming up. So I'm trying to do things like that, but yeah, I don't know what the answer is to try to get that Kentucky scene. And also, you know, Kentucky over the years, they've had so many folks make it big, where it's just it's a different, they have a much larger population, and it just, Lexington, you know, all the stars have aligned to make it just a really special music scene.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see West Virginia do that. But things like the concert series that, you know, they're finally using that amphitheater now in the summer times down here.
Yeah.
You know, that's a positive step forward. The Live on the Levee down in Charleston's always been a good thing. Yeah. You know, the Empty Glass, you know, that thing stays open no matter what. Like, that thing's never closing. So, like, that kind of stuff does help, at least, like, keep it alive.
Right.
123 Pleasant Street now has been here for over 20 years.
Right.
Jeans now has people play all week. You've had Tyler Childers. You've had myself.
Yeah.
Has Coulter played here?
No,
but I mean, yeah. I mean, you've had amazing talent walk through these doors and play, you know, 2 and 3 hour shows here on this small stage. Over the years, like, that kind of stuff definitely keeps breath in it, keeps it alive. The Purple Fiddle, but yeah, and I mean, just hopefully in the future the scene can become much more nurturing to the up and comers,
right,
and stuff.
So a lot of the artists that have played here, especially recently, have talked about, you know, how there's less and less places for them to play.
Yeah,
and they, you know, we've just kept going through the whole thing, you know, and I still have music, you know, 1, 2, 3 times a week or something, you know, and I try to do that, and we're still trying to pay them just as much as they were, you know, when they before, and they really appreciate that, you know, and I, you know, I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy, you know, being a place where they can come and play, and they know they can, you know, get in here once a month or once every 2 months or something like that. Yeah. And but to listen to some of them, how, you know, how those places are going away for them, it's kind of sad, you know. So
it's, you know, you got there's a lot that have gone in the last few years. You know, the V Club is back open under a different name, but it was closed down for like a year or something. Yeah. At Boulevard Tavern down in Charleston, across from the levee, it's gone. The Grove burned down there in Fayetteville. Melodies and Beckley closed down. Yeah. So it's just, again, and that kind of goes back to just the problems that West Virginia's been facing. Is just the population decline, the economic issues, just with, you know, from the pandemic, and just all the issues. Hopefully there's some good breaks. Yeah. Some more venues can open up, and whether it happens in Charleston or Morgantown, I'd say those are the 2 spots where if it is going to happen,
it's going to happen there.
Yeah. You know, Huntington's kind of so close to the Kentucky scene that, you know, I don't think it would happen that close to Lexington. Yeah. So if it is going to happen, it'd probably be in Charleston or Morgantown at some point. And yeah, hopefully that can happen.
Yeah. Well, to take your story and kind of like zoom out a little bit, you know, there's always things that we can't control, right? Like, you know, there's this inherent life to something like a music scene in a community or the arts in an area. But then there's also definitely like small steps that each of us can take to help support those efforts, right? Support our local artists and musicians, continue to support the businesses that provide venues. And, you know, that's kind of something I always try to keep in my head. You know, there's a Bible verse that talks about like letting go of the things that you can't control, right? And then having the courage to change the things that you can. And I think when it comes to West Virginia and our efforts, you know, as young people here and just in general, as people who are invested in our community, to see this place forward, there are definitely things that we can make a decision every day to keep doing to help push us towards that end. But then there's also this reality that some of this stuff is beyond our control. And so it's trying to figure out how to have peace, right? Trying to figure out how to live in that space in between and
yeah, and you know, I kind of left this out. I didn't think of it until just now. Another part of that too is, if you're a music fan in West Virginia, be very aware that the person that's playing at the restaurant that you're eating at, or the bar you're having a beer at, or the place you're getting a coffee, like they might be something someday.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think just because, you know, they're sitting on a stool in the corner there that they ain't nothing. If your ears like what you're hearing, you know, take note of that.
Yep.
Learn their name and like follow along with them.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's been nights when you know I've been playing here or at Schmidt's or wherever, where you know, 4/5 of the bar in it, you know, didn't care, and I can guarantee you now that like there were a lot of folks that were there those nights that had no idea that I was there playing, who are a fan of me now,
right,
and would, you know, pay hundreds of dollars to go to my show. And everybody's seen the picture of Tyler. I think he was somewhere down there on I-64, whether it was Huntington.
He was at the Railbird Festival.
Yeah, he was. Well, there was one from even before that, back when he was just still playing bars and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There's a picture of him playing like somewhere, whether it's like Huntington, St. Albans, or Charleston.
Yeah.
He was playing down there years ago, and there's a picture of him playing there, and you know, 3/4 of the room have their heads turned, like talking to who they're next to, and then obviously, you know, I bet you 3/4 of that room now.
Oh my gosh!
Would you know, cut a pinky off to like be VIP at a show of his or something like that. So a big part of it is too, if you're a music fan and you're a fan of like songwriting and stuff like that, you know, take note of what's around you. And support it, because that'll help nurture that scene. That'll help those artists get going, and then, you know, it pays off too down the line as a fan, because we don't forget. You know, those first folks that enjoy your music and make a point to come see you and stuff. We remember you. Right. And you know, there's a number of folks that anytime I find out if they're at a show or if they want to come to a show. I make a point that they get into that show, and also that I get to see them. Right. Because you almost
means something.
It's a different relationship.
Yeah.
So that's part of like changing the music scene thing, and it's not like a, you know, wagging my finger. I'm just saying, just, you know, take note. In 2013, Chris Stapleton was playing the corner stage at Smith's. You know, one evening, and as Owen told me, he ended his set 10 minutes early because so many people were talking while he was playing. Jeez. You know, that's Chris Stapleton. What happened 2 years later? And again, it's not to say, like, not to like, you know, wag my finger. I'm just saying, like, hey, you might, the next big thing might be playing for you. You know, and
it might be in West Virginia too.
And it might be in West Virginia. You know, it might be in the Shenandoah Valley, or East Kentucky, or you know, the Ohio Valley, or wherever. If you're a music fan,
or Jeans,
Jeans,
it's definitely here at Jeans.
If you're a music fan, just, you know, take note if you hear something you like.
Well, before we wrap up, what's coming up for you? What's your music looking like now? What do you got coming up?
We go back on tour in April and have a ton of dates. I think we'll end up playing about 75 shows this year. Wow. Which is nice. It's actually tapered back a lot. Than what it's been the last few years. And yeah, all the dates are at my website, Charles W. Godwin, and folks can get tickets and that whole deal on there.
Right on.
But, yeah,
you should start selling Jeans hats on your website too.
Well,
you're doing fine. You're selling well enough.
Good deal.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and play some music for us and share a little bit more about your story and hanging out with us today.
Hell yeah, I'm just happy to come on.
I appreciate you taking the time to come out and tell the wife I said hello.
I will. She's gonna be real happy with that growler of Guinness.
Oh,
back to her.
Right on.
Guinness or Halleck, we'll get you. We'll get you one of each.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff.
But, I appreciate it. I'll send you another mug home with her too.
All right, that sounds good.
She probably kept the one that I gave her. You know, no way you're getting it. So.
Yeah,
so
it's in the.
You can ride her. Get you a cup holder in your tractor. Just set it on
That's
there.
what I need there.
Yeah.
Something there that I can have in the summertime when I'm piddling around.
Right on.
Well, I appreciate you coming and taking the time, and good luck to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Al. Appreciate it.
All right.